Welcome back to the Red Dice Diaries, and this is a video response to Same Old G's video asking what is your style of gaming. Now in his video, which I'll put a link to down below, Same Old G classifies style as a way of doing something. So in effect he's asking what is your way of gaming and role playing. So I'd like to say that my way of role playing, my style of role playing if you will, is all about the game fiction. Part of what appeals to role play to me is the fact that it's telling a story, and it's the GM and the players telling that story between them. It's a collaborative narrative, and I think part of the strength of it is, unlike if I just write a story myself, then I know everything that's going to happen. There are no surprises for me. One of the things I like about role-playing is that because it's a collaborative experience and that everyone is putting ideas in, certainly in an ideal game, that even as a GM I can still be surprised by the things that occur in games. It's all about a little bit of give and take. However, this does rely somewhat on the proactivity of the players and the GM. Now, I classify myself as a fairly proactive player. If you show me some plot in a game, or the faintest sniff of plot goes wandering by, my character will be after it like a rabid bloodhound, assuming it's appropriate to the character that I'm playing. However, that may not always be the case if you have more reactive players. And I've no problems GMing for more reactive players. However, it's not my personal taste. I only have a limited amount of time to roleplay. Real life work, etc. is obviously always going to interfere with leisure time. So I like to try and get the most bang for my buck, if you will, the most enjoyment out of those however many hours a week role playing I'm actually going to get. So when I'm in a game, I love to jump on any plot that I see, and if someone shows me a plot thread or the potential for an interesting story, especially if it's something that I've maybe not seen before or that I've not particularly explored in detail, then I will go after that plot, because as far as I'm concerned, at the end of the day, the plot, the game fiction, the story is where the enjoyment lies in role-playing. And obviously that encompasses a number of different things under it. For instance, I generally prefer campaigns over one-shot, since I like the feeling of character development, of having an ongoing story that lasts more than a session. However, one-shots are great for testing the water and trying out a new system before committing to it, so don't get me wrong there. But my main problem, certainly with campaigns, is that often I tend to get very frustrated when people don't seem willing to put in as much effort into attending or playing them as myself. And I think a lot of campaigns, I know certainly numerous ones that I've run, tend to fizzle out because people aren't willing to make the effort to actually attend. And I think personally, if I'm a player in a game, I think that if a GM's gone to the length of time of preparing their material and creating a game for us all to enjoy, then the least I can do is be a bit considerate and have some good manners when it comes to attending on time. If I'm going to not be able to make it for whatever reason, and they do happen obviously, then I think it's only polite to try and tell them as soon as possible. In terms of what I look for in a game, I want to know what we're working towards. I love to have a clearly defined goal. Now, whether that's the case if you're playing a vampire game and your goal is to become the prince of the city, or whether you're playing a wraith game and your goal is to take revenge on the person who killed you, whatever that may be. And that might not be something that the GM tells you at the start, it might be a personal goal, but I like to have something I'm working towards rather than just bimbling along and picking up on whatever comes along. And I think that's part of being quite proactive as a player. I like to set out with a goal in mind. Now that may change during the game depending on what the story and the narrative demand and how the twists and turns of the plot go, but I like to start out with a goal in mind. I like a session with everyone pulling towards some sort of goal, but still keeping the understanding that people have their own individual backgrounds, and that gaming is a social experience, and that we're all there to enjoy ourselves and to contribute to the game as a whole. I don't tend to enjoy games where one character always has the spotlight 100% of the time. Now, as a very proactive player myself, it'd be very easy in a lot of games for me to push to the front and hog most of the spotlight, but I don't think that's a very polite thing to do, since I think that I want to get all of the group involved. I want to have everyone contributing to that narrative, so I will try and include people as much as I can, other characters, etc., and other players, even if we're on a bit of the plot that is my character's time in the spotlight, because it costs me very little to include other people in it. It increases their enjoyment of the game, and quite often with other people's input, as I say, you can end up with a far more interesting result than if it was just me putting my own ideas in. I want a game where I'm itching to find out what's over the next hill or what evil plot the villains are up to, but where as a group we're creating the story between us. I don't enjoy stories as much where there's a linear progression in a game and no space for player input to the narrative. As I've said a couple of times in this video, I think that the more ideas and the more thoughts you have going into that narrative, the more likely you are to get something truly surprising and very interesting. So, in a nutshell, that's my style. I'm all about the story, but as normal stories have an end, roleplay games, I prefer also to have a definitive end goal to a campaign that all of the player characters and the GM can work towards. And I like it when there's a deal of narrative control that is shared out between the GMs and the players, since I think it takes some work off the GM and it also gets me as a player invested more in the game, and I feel that my input's being taken into account. And out of that melting pot of ideas, you normally end up with something far more interesting than just one person's viewpoint. So, I hope if you've enjoyed this video, you'll consider clicking on like and subscribe to my channel by clicking on the red dice up there. I hope that's answered your question, same old G. If you have any comments for anybody, as always, either put them in the box below or hit me up in the Google Plus links. Until I see you next time in my next video, take care and thank you very much for watching.